Marinero, the Sick Podcast. And you can listen to us on iHeartRadio and follow us on all social media platforms. We are going to Vancouver, and from the Sakaris and Price Podcast, Matt Sakaris, how you doing, bud?
I'm very well, Tony. Nice to see you. I missed my annual trip to Montreal this summer because of everything. So good to talk to your audience and good to catch up, my friend.
Rain check. Well, yeah. I'm in Montreal, you're in Vancouver, and we have something in common, and that is the Vancouver Canucks have a player that the Montreal Canadiens want. As a matter of fact, I would say a lot of teams would want him. I'm talking, of course, about Elias Pettersson, and the reason why you're on today is because he told Uffe Bodin, a reporter from Sweden, on how the negotiations were going. He said, quote, "My agents do all the talking with the Canucks, and then they inform me about what's going on. Right now, we're not in an agreement, but I'm not worried about it, that we're not going to solve it eventually. Both parties need to be happy in order to find a solution, but I'm not worried about that." The 22-year-old centerman is an RFA, and he's looking for a new contract. Asked about what kind of deal he would prefer. "I want to stay there now, Vancouver, but I also want to play for a team that's winning and has the chance to go far in the playoffs every year. I feel like we've got a chance to do that next year. If we have that chance when my next deal expires, I don't know. I just want to play where there's a chance of winning." Matt, you hear this. Are you happy or concerned?
Well, the first thing I'd say was, is Tyler Toffoli not enough? Tony, you want to raid the Canucks for more good players here for your Canadians?
Why not? They got Toffoli so easily. Maybe they'll get better.
I know. Didn't they? So look, there are a couple of ways of looking at this, and we heard this from our audience after Elias made his remarks. The one way is, no big deal. Star player wants to win. What's news about that? Why is that a big headline? And Elias does say, this contract, he doesn't appear there will be any problems, that they're going to get a deal done here in restricted free agency, that he is talking about his next contract, the one that would presumably buy out UFA years or dovetail with his unrestricted free agency. So we're years away from that, and so much could happen. Now, here's the context, my friend. The Vancouver Canucks have done a whole lot of losing over the last 7-8 years. They've done a whole lot of losing over Elias Pettersson's 3 years here. They have backed themselves into a terrible spot with their two-star players, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, with their salary cap mismanagement. They have spent so many bad dollars on bad players, not to mention have re-signed so many players prior to getting these deals done, that their backs are against the wall. They're backed into the corner. They cannot offer Pettersson and Hughes those big long-term deals that make them career Canucks, so to speak, and buy out unrestricted years. And this despite the fact that Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes both wanted to work on these deals last summer when the Canucks weren't able to because of their cap situation and because they don't particularly multitask well as an organization. So both of these players are coming to grips with the fact that at least one of them is going to sign a bridge deal here. And Elias Pettersson, I suspect, was very calculated with what he said to the Swedish reporter and has put the Vancouver Canucks on the clock. Okay, I'm signing a 2 or 3 year bridge deal, whatever the case may be. And Matt Barzal is the comparable there, Tony. So it's like 3.7 million, something like that. But you sons of guns are going to show me that we've got a proper organization, that we're going to be a winner going forward, or at least have a chance each and every year in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which has not really been the case with the exception of last year in the bubble. This decade here in Vancouver.
It's the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinero, and the show is brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and use code sickpod for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia, beyond organic sleep. If people were sleeping in Vancouver, the second those quotes came out, they surely woke up. And if I'm the owner of the Vancouver Canucks, that's a wake-up call for me too, because now all the onus, I would think, is on general manager Jim Benning to really make some great moves to try and make this team a contender sooner rather than later when it could be too late.
I saw one Canucks fan on Twitter, Tony, say, good, maybe Elias Pettersson will succeed where fans and media have failed in this market, and that is getting the owner to wake up and build a winner here. You're absolutely right, my friend. That has to be received by ownership and management as, oh boy, we got work to do, or we're not going to be able to keep stars happy, even our own draft and developed players like Elias Pettersson. Like he knows no other franchise in the NHL other than the Vancouver Canucks. But he's a pretty wise kid. He's a pretty sharp kid. And I think he looks around and sees the fact that other teams have operated better, have put themselves in better positions, both in the present and in the future. And look, it was just a dreadful year front to back for the Vancouver Canucks. It started with ownership basically turning off the financial taps. Jim Benning had to get approval for every dollar he spent last year in free agency, which is one of the reasons Tyler Toffoli is a Montreal Canadian today. Then they went through another terrible season, got off to an awful start, and so it became a chase and hope teams around you lose to get into the playoff race. And then there was the single biggest COVID outbreak for any North American professional franchise going, and in part because the Vancouver Canucks weren't particularly stringent enough with COVID protocols. So, I think Elias Pettersson looks at all that and says, okay, like, can we get serious here? Like, can we build an organization top to bottom that is finances, competitiveness, has its successes, wins some games on the ice, sets itself up to be a year in, year out contender, and isn't susceptible to things like COVID outbreaks with the way they operate. The other thing, Tony, is like they cut the staff back to like 20, 25 people here, something like that during COVID. So the players lost a lot of facilitators, a lot of people that they were accustomed to working with, a lot of people they treated as valued friends and colleagues in the organization. So last year was a really terrible year for the Vancouver Canucks, and I think ownership is understanding slowly but surely that it's got ramifications, including with its best players.
If you're a fan of the Vancouver Canucks, you can pick up their jersey or their hoodie at sportbuffshop.com. For all of your officially licensed sports apparel and more, use code SICK15 for 15% off on all of their items. And not only Canucks, by the way, pretty much any team, pretty much any sport. All right, back to Elias Pettersson. The risk of him being offer sheeted. He's the type of player and the type of profile that anyone would want to offer sheet. Let's go through them right now. Young at 22, soon to be 23, plays a very important position in hockey, center, has size at 6'2", has an unbelievable skill set, is already a superstar this early on in the National Hockey League. That's the kind of guy you offer sheet. And think about the teams that would be interested. I mean, Edmonton doesn't need a number one centerman. Colorado doesn't need a number one centerman. The Islanders with Barzal probably wouldn't absolutely need him either, even though every team would take him, right? Yeah. But I would say that probably a good 80% of teams in the National Hockey League would love to have Elias Pettersson, and he would step in and be their number one centerman. How worried or not are you or Canucks fans of a possible offer sheet to Pettersson?
Well, first of all, you tell me, Tony, when's the last time you talked to Mark Bergevin? Where's he on offer sheets these days?
Because didn't work out very well.
Yeah, no, but he fired the last salvo on a big offer sheet.
Yeah,
right.
Sebastian Aho.
Yeah. So here's the deal. The Canucks and Jim Benning have come out and said, we will match every offer sheet. They said that prior to shedding salary, and they shed some salary via the Nate Schmidt trade and buyouts. And people are like, well, okay, you say you're going to match, but that will really back you in the corner. They have created some more cap space. I suspect they would match just about anything that comes in. And Tony, you've covered this league long enough, my friend. Offer sheets are like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. You may hear a lot about them, but nobody actually sees them, right? So It's just there's so few successful offer sheets that, and we do it on my show too. Like, how much do we talk about offer sheets when really there's just so little chance that they're ever successful? I suspect that the risk of that has diminished greatly since the Canucks created some cap space, since we've gotten to free agency, and thus far I've heard nothing on an offer sheet or any offer sheet. So I would think it's probably a small concern.
So if you're a Canucks fan, you don't have to worry about losing Pettersson to an offer sheet, so you can celebrate. So give Sophistication a call for event rentals, live music, DJ sound systems, tents, chairs, tables, decor, lighting, photo booth, TV screens. The number's in Montreal at 514-570-5770 if you're a Canucks fan living in Montreal, that is. All right. You know what this sounds like, though? All right. Although I don't think that this is huge reason for concern right now. You know who sounded like this a couple of years ago? His name is Jack Eichel of the Buffalo Sabres, who put his team on a warning and said, listen, I like it here. I want to be here. But ultimately, I want to win. And I'm sick and tired of not winning. So either we win going forward, or I'm going to want to win somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He almost sounds like Jack Eichel. How concerned are you that if in 2 years from now the Canucks are average and he's on a bridge, that this could be Jack Eichel 2.0?
Well, the comparison has been made here since Elias uttered those words, that he is Eichel is the cautionary tale, that there are some similarities between the Vancouver Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres in terms of ownership and operations and how it's not up to best practices in the National Hockey League. Now, of course, Eichel has this medical dispute with the Sabres team doctors, which to me is Exhibit A in their soon-to-be divorce. Although you're right, there were signals of this before the Eichel injury and the medical dispute. But Tony, it's broader than that, my friend. We've seen it in the NBA for some time. We've seen a little bit in Major League Baseball. We're seeing it now with the National Football League players. Good players in any sport understand that they have leverage, and they're taking firmer and firmer hands in terms of directing their career, directing where they want their career to go. And you can understand it to the degree because, you're the best sports talk radio host in the world, Tony. You know, you can go work in any market. You're not subject to a draft where you have to go to Buffalo until you're 25 years old.
Yeah.
So, you can understand that these players, and of course, they're a different generation than you and me to begin with. They're growing up in a different world, and in some cases, a scarier world where they're the first generation that won't be as wealthy as their parents, who are accustomed to having to fend for themselves and look after number one in a much more acute way than athletes previous. So we're seeing this as a greater trend around sport. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit more and more hockey players and markets. We've seen it in Columbus with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Seth Jones. And so, I think there's real concern everywhere now that if you've got a star player and you're not winning, you're on the clock. They're going to look to win at some point. I
don't know if you're serious about being the best sports radio host in the world, but I'll listen. I'll drink to that. Cherry River hard seltzer, only 90 calories, natural flavors, no preservatives, now available in Quebec grocery stores and at the beer store. So thank you very much. Cheers to you.
Hello.
Okay, very good. The drink of the summer. Now I have to ask you. He wants them to be very good going forward. So how good are they? Because this is my take on them. I love them, top two lines.
Yep.
I love them, top two pairings. I love them, top two goalies. Obviously, there are teams with bigger problems that are not good in the top two lines. They're not good in the top two pairings. So the weakness I see is depth and a winning culture.
Yeah.
What do you see?
I see a pretty good forward group 1 through 9. You're right about depth up front. It's been an issue for a number of times. You're probably a little bit more bullish on their second pair than I am, Tony. One of the worst defensive groups going. They have made some changes there. It's a big bet here on Oliver Ekman-Larsson bouncing back and being a better player than he over the last couple of years. It's a big bet on Tucker Poolman stepping up and becoming a shutdown defender for a guy who wasn't necessarily, who was more third pair and a fringier guy than, bona fide top 4 NHL defenseman. Really like Thatcher Demko in goal. And, Yaroslav Halak, he is a pro. Yeah, coming off a more difficult year in Boston, but he's been one of the better NHL backup goaltenders here for the last few years. Tony, it's not exactly a murderer's road division, this Pacific. We're going back into the Pacific division where you got the Alberta teams, you got the California teams, you got the expansion Kraken, so there should be some opportunity there. But
Matt, sorry to interrupt, but if this fourth wave hits, who knows? We might see a Canadian division again.
Right. You're quite right, Tony. I don't know what it was like in Quebec yesterday, but I think it was 536 cases in BC. We've doubled over the last week. It's astonishingly bad.
It's concerning. It's concerning. Yeah. And, if it is a Canadian division, I have to tell you, The Canadians will be pretty happy about playing the Vancouver Canucks. Needless to say, they had their number last year. My God, I kept asking myself if Vancouver was that bad or Montreal was that good.
Yeah. No, Vancouver was that bad.
Wow.
But yeah, Tyler Toffoli scoring power play, even strength, shorthanded, empty nets. Tyler scoring in every way possible.
Amazing.
So look, do I think they can battle for a playoff spot? Yes, but I don't necessarily view this as a team that could go deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, they are one injury away. Like if Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson were to miss time, and Elias missed most of the season last year, they would be absolutely screwed because they don't have the depth.
All right, in ending, for those who didn't have the chance to see Elias Pettersson all that much, he missed, the last 30 games with a wrist injury, I believe it was. Yeah. You followed him very, very closely since the start of his career. How good is he, and who does he remind you of?
Yeah, well, he's an amazing thinker of the game, like his hockey sense and his hockey IQ. And of course, we had the Sedin twins here for many, many years who showed us a lot of the same attributes. So he's actually a better defensive player than most people realize as well. He is a two-way centerman. He's got a lethal one-time shot. He's very nifty in small areas, very good hands, great stick handler. And yeah, just one of those players, Tony, how some of those guys get the puck on their stick and it's just total calm, total poise. The whole game slows down, almost like the other 9 skaters on the ice are just sitting there transfixed and watching the puck carrier. Elias Pettersson has a lot of those qualities. You mentioned the height that he has at 6'2". He probably does need to get a little bit thicker, a little more sturdy, and we see that each and every year that he works on that part of his body and his game. But yeah, this is a young player with tons of upside at just 22, a true franchise two-way centerman. And so, not having him or not having Quinn Hughes in training camp for the Vancouver Canucks would be a Chicken Little situation for their fans.
One of the most exciting players that I've seen play, a former Vancouver Canuck, Pavel Bure. Here in Montreal, we had to settle for Valerie.
Yeah. Well, Elias doesn't skate like Pavel. Like that, Pavel is known as
Pavel could fly.
Yeah,
Pavel could fly.
Yeah. Pavel is known as the most talented player in the history of the Vancouver Canucks. And, Elias is on that short list with him. The skating is a significant difference. But, what I would say is, Elias sees the ice and makes others better in a more acute way than Pavel did. So, we've seen some great players in Vancouver here over the years, much like you in Montreal, and Elias Pettersson ranks there with many of them.
He is Matt Sakaris of the Sakaris and Price podcast. And of course, you'll know where to find them on all social media platforms. And it's the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. And you can listen to us on iHeartRadio and follow us on all those social media platforms as well. Thanks for doing this, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tony. Stay well there in Montreal. Call anytime.
All right, Matt. Talk soon. It's now time for my buddy Cash to make us a little money.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by MyBookie.
All right, he is at Run My Bets. That's his handle. He's my buddy Cash. Cash, summer's here. Beautiful days ahead. I need money in my pocket. Make me some cash. Now,
guys, I got a bet for you guys. It's not going to put money in your pocket tomorrow, but it's going to put your money in your pocket in 7-8 months, guys. I got a big future. You guys know I win these futures. You guys know I took Montreal 3 straight series, big plus money. We won them all. I have one for football, guys. The Washington football team in the NFC least. That's right, guys. The worst division in football. We're looking at the Washington football team plus 260, 3.60 times payout, guys. I don't know what the bookmakers are thinking. They have the Cowboys favored in the division. I don't, guys. My power rankings have the Washington football team as a favorite against the Cowboys on a neutral field. The value is insurmountable, guys. Place a decent-sized wager on this bet, 2 units. Like I said, you're not going to get your money tomorrow, but expect a fat check, a fat pay from the bookie in about 7 to 8 months, guys. I think the Washington football team are going to win the division handily. I think they'll be able to beat all those teams. The Giants, the Eagles, guys, these guys aren't that great. The Cowboys, we're hearing stuff about Dak Prescott. We don't really know what's going on. Give me the Washington football team plus 260, absurd odds. I love it. I think they're going to win 10, 11 games this year. They're going to win the division. They're going to make the playoffs again. Book it, guys.
I'm going to book it, Cash. And if it comes through in 7 or 8 months from now, At that point, the drinks are on me. Cheers, pal.
Sounds good.
All right. He's Cash. I'm Marinero. It's a sick podcast, and you can follow us, of course, on all social media platforms till we do it again next time. Ciao for now.